Top 4 episodes in Season 10 so far. You know what, let's just skip right to number 1. Stitch vs. Rocket is a matchup that's always been in the back of my mind as an episode that would be cool to see on Death Battle, but not one I felt super passionately about. It got kinda lost in the shuffle of my Marvel episode Burnout, and for as much as I like Rocket from his MCU iteration, I figured that Stitch would have to carry the episode in terms of my overall interest. But no, the Death Battle team had to go and make this episode a thrill ride from start to finish that I absolutely adored. My cynical side really keeps shooting me in the foot when it comes to being accurate about how much a Death Battle will resonate with me. I'd say I should be more open-minded toward matchups I don't care about, but I am not about to have another Ant-Man vs. Atom in my hands. Anyway, let's actually talk about the episode that won't become significantly less impressive when I do a Season 10 retrospective. We'll start with Stitch's rundown, which is extremely fun. Analyses featuring characters in series that wouldn't seem suited for a death battle at first glance are usually some of my favorites. Super rare opinion right there, I know. And the magic of a classic Disney movie like Lilo and Stitch getting that treatment is a true delight. A lot of the charm and legitimately cool sci-fi from all of Stitch's media managed to fit nicely into the script, making for a well-rounded and well-paced analysis that had a lot of jokes I found funny. In fact, Stitch's cutaway gag was the highlight of this entire episode's humor in my opinion. It's a good subversion of the otherwise played-out Boomstick's X joke that actually made me respect Boomstick a little more. And the fact that it keeps going to where Wiz tries to entice Boomstick into coming back with planetary destruction, only for him to get told to F off, is just icing on the cake. Also, Dummy's there, which is always nice to see. Its only issue is that not 2 seconds after this, Boomstick is back like nothing happened. This could have been made more natural by having Boomstick come back while saying, "I'm only coming back to talk about guns, not for you, Wiz." I mean, he literally comes back to talk about Stitch's arsenal. It was perfectly lined up for them to do this. Whatever. It's pretty minor for what is my only issue with Stitch's analysis, so who really gives a flark? Well, actually, there is one other small problem I have with it. The editing. Parker's work on this episode is generally much stronger than his work for Chosen Undead vs. Dragonborn, but the zoomed out clips from the Lilo and Stitch spin-offs kind of stick out like sore thumbs against the rest of the unaltered source material. I believe it's because the clips are very low resolution, but it's not exactly like all the other clips are 1080p, so I feel it was a bit unnecessary. Rocket's analysis is also very good, which is kind of weird to say since I was half expecting the usual Marvel scaling dribble when it came time to discuss his strongest weapons. But long before any of that was brought up, I was won over by the writing and music choices used in his breakdown. The latter felt very fitting for a Guardians of the Galaxy character, since funky 70s style jams are a part of the team's identity. For as long as Death Battle has been going, it's kind of surprising it took them this long to use a Guardians rep, but it plays to this episode's advantage since there's a lot of unique world building and feats that a standard Earthborn Marvel head wouldn't be connected to. That gives Wiz and Boomstick plenty of new stuff to talk about, and since Rocket is one of the lesser known heroes outside of the MCU, it makes the whole thing a very engaging watch. I didn't find the jokes as consistently funny as Stitch's, but they were still good overall. I also appreciated the recurring bit about Rocket not being a raccoon, which is a joke I can really see working for the general audience since the version of Rocket everyone is familiar with actually is one. Which, let's be honest, raccoons? Bottom tier animal. Always rooting around in your business and trying to steal your water. Boomstick's right, they're a bunch of little bastards. Thank God 616 Rocket's not one of those. Anyway, one piece of unintentional humor I found amusing was Rocket's arsenal screen, which is in the smallest font size possible to fit everything on one page. It really sells the comical size of Rocket's weapons closet, which is good since it's basically his entire gimmick. Eventually though, we do get to the expected Marvel scaling extravaganza. I personally didn't mind it though, since most of the stuff brought up for Rocket's scaling was stuff I hadn't heard about before. I had vaguely heard about the Thanos gun, but not about the Dormammu thwarting or thing matching the power cosmic. The usual suspects like Thor are only given a brief mention, which was more than welcome since longtime viewers of the show should know what they're capable of by now. Heck, by the time Rocket's analysis was finished, me and my group of friends watching it were honestly doubting if we were right about Stitch having it at the start, which should just go to show how much we were paying attention by the time it came to an end. Boy, Killua vs. Misaka's title of having my favorite analyses of Season 10 got stolen away pretty damn fast. I wouldn't say Stitch or Rockets are as dense information-wise as Killua or Misaka's, but they're far and away more fun to watch in my opinion. And you know what else is very fun to watch? This episode's animation. I know I keep using that word, but there's really no better way to put it. This fight is the most fun I've had with a death battle animation since the nautical nonsense of Season 9. I have so much to say here, so to keep this even remotely structured, I'll run through each scene as they come without jumping around too much. First though, let's cover some of the fight's fundamental attributes, like Stitch and Rocket's custom sprites. It's unreal how excellent Stitch looks. He has so many great expressive moments, and the way he moves around suits him perfectly. Rocket's are no slouch either. Origin translated his endgame outfit into sprite form with exceptional skill. He also manages to be very expressive while staying true to his Raccoon features all throughout. The location of the fight is also worth highlighting. I wasn't immediately sold on Space Hawaii when I first saw it in the sneak peek. I felt like it could have been set in regular Hawaii with no discernible difference. But soon after the sneak peek, I learned that the collar Stitch is wearing at the start is tied to when he left Earth for a while, and its later destruction is used to give him more motivation to fight with lethal intent. This made me more on board with the concept, and they use plenty of Hawaiian scenery in the fight anyway, so we're not missing much from the actual island chain this way. Lastly, before we move on to the action, I want to gush about my favorite part of this fight, and that's the score. Jailhouse Rocket is an endlessly catchy tune that makes great use of Elvis-styled vocals and an upbeat guitar-leading melody. The fact that kids in the Death Battle audience didn't know who Elvis is or what Jailhouse Rock was made me feel like an old-ass man, but it does actually suit both fighters. Elvis is the figure Lilo uses to inspire Stitch to become a model citizen in the movie, and while he was past his peak by the 70s, Elvis was still part of the musical landscape around then, so he fits with the Guardians' musical identity. I'm not kidding about this song being insanely catchy, by the way. For the week after my friends and I watched the episode, we would randomly sing, "We're having a blast!" together because it got stuck in our heads so often. Okay, those tangents took a while, but now let's start dissecting the fight itself. We open on Rocket fixing the Milano on the beach, and Stitch gets blasted out of a volcano, destroying the ship. Not really sure what Stitch was doing in there, but it is pretty fitting that he just fell out of the sky and wrecked someone's day. The combat begins with a simple firefight between the two standard blasters, with Rocket displaying his superiority in that field by disarming Stitch and sniping his collar. This is a good scene, but it's followed by the weakest one of the fight for one simple reason. Despite Stitch making no effort whatsoever to dodge, Rocket's laser shots miss him completely.
1, 2, 3, 4!
This is less of a problem with this fight in particular, and more of a grievance I have with the Death Battle team making these kinds of nonsensical scenes. Look at Dio vs Alucard, for example, where the exact same thing happens after an analysis where they make an explicit point of Alucard's marksmanship. If Rocket's specialty is firearms, you'd think he'd be a better shot than this. Would it have been so weird to have Stitch deflect them as he talks, since he proves he's resistant to them immediately afterward? I don't mind scenes where the fighting slows down to make room for banter, but at least make them logical. Sorry for going on a bit of a rant there. This is just an issue I've had with some Death Battles before. This scene doesn't actually subtract anything from the fight, it just happened to be a good springboard for my thoughts on scenes like it. Anyway, Rocket's indignation upon his mother being insulted seems to improve his aim, and Stitch catches and returns the blast in a neat reference to his fight with Jumba. Then he spits out some spit, and Rocket's guns are glued to a nearby tree, letting Stitch get in for some impactful slash attacks. This is both a good use of Stitch's spit and a clever way to force Rocket to escalate his firepower, which we get to see once he deploys sentries against Stitch in the forest. This is a great scene with some awesome sprite work and funny slapstick, but I want to make special note of this scene because it's Moro's first work for Death Battle that we get to see. He did very well animating Stitch. Some of the little guy's most expressive moments across the whole animation can be seen here. Also, the sentry guns felt very reminiscent of the drones from Indie Cross in their appearance, so that was a cool detail to pick up on. This is probably my favorite sequence of the fight right here. Watching Stitch flail around as Rocket's tech overwhelms him is just the kind of cartoony violence I would want from this match. And Rocket subtly shifting his weight back and forth while he activates the sentries from afar is some more wonderful expression work. It makes me feel like he's a conductor leading a symphony of weapons, fully in tune with what's going on and totally in control of the situation. It's great storytelling with no need for words, I love it. After that, Rocket tricks... Why is it Rocker in the script? After that, Rocket tricks Stitch into activating a warhead using his AI teleporting, and Stitch pulls a wily coyote and looks at the camera before Rocket goes, "Bombs away!" This is an even better way to show how Rocket is working around Stitch's physical superiority through trickery, and it sets up for probably my favorite use of the environment in this animation. The giant explosion sets off a tidal wave in the nearby water, and Stitch uses a broken wing from the Milano to surf on it toward Rocket. Do I even need to say it for you to know that this kicks so much ass? It's such a perfect thing for Stitch to do at this moment, and the fact that he also drops the naughtiest phrase ever during it makes it all the better. Rocket's reaction is also hilarious, because not only does it almost make him vomit, but it drives him to call down the strongest weapon he has in order to kill Stitch. That right there is how you do fight escalation. I suppose this would be as good a time as any to mention the voice actors. Dalton Engel-Sorrell is having a blast as Stitch, getting the scrimblow-bimblow quality of his voice and his manic energy down pretty accurately. And on the flip side, Jeff Shine does great emulating the kind of voice Rocket is known for. Both of them deserve high praise for their performances here. Small fun fact, by the way, that naughty phrase Stitch shouts is a Tantalog phrase, which is the language of Jumba's experiments, and what he says when the missiles come at him is another phrase that basically means cowabunga. Back to the action, Stitch's power cell activates after he gets knocked off his board and he scratches up Rocket's shield, but Rocket ditches the shield and leaves Stitch helpless in midair as his anti-Thanos gun arrives. The following line from Rocket is solid enough, though I do wish he'd had a more devastating insult to throw than fuzzball in response to Stitch's extreme vulgarity. But that's not much of a lingering issue, since the following moment of Stitch getting his secondary arms shredded off by the phasic blast is really impactful. It's the most grievous injury either fighter has suffered yet, and Stitch's eyes squeezing shut as you hear the sound of his flesh tearing apart shows you the pain he's in. His peril is heightened once again once he hits the water. On my first watch, I thought he was just too weak to swim back up at that point, but I'd forgotten that Stitch explicitly cannot swim, so this is actually do or die for him now. And with his supercomputer brain, he's able to figure out the perfect escape plan, seeing the wreckage of the Milano and Rocket's discarded missile launcher below him. That brings us to one of my favorite death battle finishers in a while. Stitch blasts out of the water, riding the modified launcher toward Rocket as he tries to fire another phasic shot. But Stitch's ramshackle craft is just too quick, and Rocket is skewered clean through the stomach by its bladed front end. I know just describing it doesn't do the moment much justice, but trust me, my friends and I were losing our minds when this happened. It's such a thrill to watch and I can never get enough of it. Then Stitch does the bite of 87 to Rocket's wrist controller and abandons ship, leaving Rocket to get cut off mid-swear as he rams into his own orbital stash, dying in the ensuing explosion. Sure, you might not care for simple explosion deaths, but I really like the way this one was implemented. It makes it really creative. As for Ice Cream Guy getting splattered though, I think it's fine. I've heard some people say they thought it was excessive and unnecessary, but like, I don't know, I'm not bothered by it. It's really not even that violent. He just pops like a balloon and gets splattered on the camera a little bit. And besides, if he's out here on Space Hawaii, that clearly gives credence to the theory that he's an alien, so it's just one more extraterrestrial added to Stitch's body count for this episode. And come on, how are you gonna deny Stitch his ice cream after that fight? Look how happy he is about it. And that's the animation for this episode. It's the shortest we've had so far in Season 10, but it makes excellent use of that runtime to give us a battle that's a simple, good old-fashioned dopamine rush from start to finish. It's not a perfect fight, but it is an extremely entertaining one, and that's all I really need from it at the end of the day. In terms of the verdict, it's a very short one, but it makes sense for it to be, since the conclusion the research pointed to was fairly straightforward. Both could kill the other with one good hit, so speed was the main factor that mattered, and in that aspect, Stitch had the upper hand. Paw? Easily. And as a final note, Stitch breaking into the Death Battle studio to announce himself as the winner was a stroke of genius from the writing, especially since they outright called him another Deadpool at the end of his analysis. Given how late this review is coming out, I obviously don't need to tell you guys that next time is Darth Vader vs. Obito. Given that I've very much enjoyed the analysis previews and the sneak peek for this match, I'm optimistic about this episode's outlook, and I can't wait to see the full thing in a few days. So I'll hold off on discussing the matchup in more detail until later. Anyway, I'm very glad I was able to talk about Stitch vs. Rocket in time. I can't stress enough how much fun I have with this episode, to the point where I'd call it my favorite of Season 10 thus far pretty easily. Which begs the question, what score would I give it? Well, I feel like my reviews might be getting a bit notorious for always scoring the episodes quite highly in comparison to my YouTube contemporaries. I do try to sit with the episodes longer than my first watch before starting to collect my thoughts in script form, and my number scores tend to be more reflective of how much I like an episode rather than my thoughts on its objective quality. That said, I'm going to try to diversify the range of scores I give episodes in the future where it's appropriate to do so. So I'm gonna do exactly that and give this episode a score I haven't given out before, a 10 out of 10. Stitch vs. Rocket is far from perfect, but not many death battles put a smile on my face the way this one does. And unless my most wanted episodes start appearing on the show en masse, I doubt many more will for a while. Anyway, time for me to plug my reaction video, right? Well, not quite. You see, I've been able to get my reactions up parallel to my reviews because it's just been me this whole time, watching them by myself. But this time,
I got more.
That's right. For the first time since I've started my reviews, I got to watch the newest death battle release with friends. And what a group of friends at that! I mentioned at the end of my Killua vs. Misaka review that I'd be on vacation at the time of Stitch vs. Rocket's release, and since the group I was with is largely comprised of death battle fans, we all sat down to watch it for the first time together. It was an absolute pleasure to do this, and in fact, one of those friends I got to watch it in person with was the Biffweed, YouTube sensation and adoptive father of Pac-Man. We'll both be having the group's reaction on our channels, but to mix it up, he'll be doing it in his usual highlight style, whereas I'll be uploading the full, mostly uncut version. I can't promise it'll be up at the same time as this review, since the reaction was recorded with someone else's camera and I don't have the file yet, but please look forward to watching it once I do. And that's about all I have to say for this video, except one more thing, that is. I've shouted out Biff and Nem's reviews at the end of my own thus far, since they're the reviewers I'm personally closest to, but I feel like my recommendations don't do much for them since, let's be honest, if you're subscribed to my channel for Versus content, you're probably already subscribed to them too. So let this be a call to others who make death battle reviews on this platform. Drop a comment on this video so I can check your reviews out. If I enjoy what I see, I'll add you to a list of death battle reviewers I'll plug at the end of my videos. I find it important that people watch a wide variety of reviewers for content they like, so their opinions aren't reflective of just one person's own views, and I hope to promote this sort of community thought in this way. So again, if you make death battle based reviews, not just reactions, but reviews, then comment below so I can see you and possibly add you to my plug list. Okay, now I'm officially out of things to say in this video. Subscribe for more, like the video, all that good stuff. See you very soon for the next review, and thanks for watching.